Go.
Go. Okay. So we're going to talk about the NDE. And I died at 17 years old of septicemia. I'm going to skip over the whole hospital thing and all that. I did pass out in x-ray. So they decided to keep me. And then after everybody left, I died. They left me alone and I went, anyway. So I'm in my hospital bed. And I feel like I'm going to pass out again like I did an x-ray. And I didn't want to. So I start fighting it, okay? And I turned over onto my left side. And I remember grabbing the bed rail, holding myself over, thinking that I had beat it. And then I rolled back onto my back. And I looked up, and I could see through my closed eyelids. And that's a very strange sensation. I could even see the little creases in my eyelids, so I knew my eyes were shut. But I could see through my eyelids. And I was like, that's really weird. So I blinked really hard, and I opened my eyes again, and I'm still looking through my eyelids. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. So I decided to sit up. And as I sat up, I'm feeling the sensation of passing through a warm wall of Jell-O. It wasn't pudding. It wasn't as thick as pudding. It was more like Jell-O. And I sat up, and I'm like, okay, and I feel totally normal. I feel, like every day. So I decided to swing my legs off the bed, and so I did that, and then I went to stand up on the floor. And when I had gotten into the bed, the floor was freezing. Okay, it was shockingly cold. But then when I'm standing up, it's not cold anymore. And I remember registering that. I remember that being a thought in my head. And then I knew my body was behind me on the bed, like laid out, unconscious. But it never occurred to me I was dead. Never occurred to me I had just died and left my body. I liken it to getting out of your car, okay? You're home, the keys are in your hand, it's in your driveway, and you don't give it another thought, okay? I had no register at all that this is a dead body on the bed. I had no fear. It was like a non-thing. That's the best way I can put it. So I'm standing there, and this is when the room started to change, and lots of stuff started to happen. I'm standing next to my bed. I've got my body behind me, and I don't care at all. And then the room starts to expand. Okay, this is a regular semi-private hospital room. There was another bed in the room that was on the opposite side of a curtain that was hanging down. And that's how I know that the curtain was hanging from the ceiling. Okay, so the room starts to get bigger and bigger. And then the curtain that was hanging from the ceiling becomes a white curtain. It was blue. It was a white curtain that came up on a rack like they had in the 1940s, okay? And then a giant yellow iron lung shows up on the wall opposite. And then the window that was there, which wasn't a very big window, got bigger, okay? At the same time this is going on, a man in a hospital gown from my right, because the bathroom is directly to my right, he comes out of the bathroom, and he had on one of those hospital gowns. And I remember thinking, oh no, because, the back is open, but I couldn't see anything, and I was grateful for that. And then he walked in front of me, and there was this white light in front of him. And then it changed where he wasn't an old man anymore. He was a guy in a uniform, like an army uniform. I knew it wasn't Marine Corps. I just got over the flu. So I'm looking at this, and he's got a jacket, and he's got his medals on, and he kind of smiled, and then everything goes black. Absolutely black, okay? To give you an idea of how dark this is super dark. And I'm not scared, not one iota. There was never fear in any of this. It was just, okay, it's dark. It's just, you just accept that it's dark. And I kind of laughed, and I put my hand before my face to see if I could see my hand, because it was so freaking dark. And I'm sitting there standing there like I'm waiting for a bus. So if you were to like go in a small bathroom or a walk-in closet, and you close the door, you turn on the light, you close your eyes and you put one of those sleep masks on, okay? And then you shut off the light. That's how dark this is. It is extremely dark. And you can't see anything. I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't see anything. I'm fully alive. I'm standing up because I can feel the solidity of the floor underneath my feet. Okay, and I'm barefoot. And I'm just standing there like I'm waiting for my mom to pick me up from school. Okay? Like you're a 5th grader hanging out. I think back on it now and I'm like, because I'm scared of the dark and I don't like the dark. But in this area, I couldn't tell you how high it was. I had the sense that if you stuck your arm out, it was going to be a really big area, right? Like further than you could touch the wall. So I'm sitting there, and maybe 30 seconds goes by, and I'm kind of like, okay, like, what now? And then as soon as I thought, what now, this door shows up. Slightly off to my right, and it was slightly ajar. I mean, very slightly ajar, okay? A little bit of light was shining through the top, so you could tell the room on the other side of the door was brightly lit, right? And I looked at the door, and as soon as I thought to go to that door, I was at that door. I mean, instantaneously. There had to be 500 feet between where I was standing and where this door was. The second I thought about getting to that door, zoom, I was there, okay? Like, I didn't take a step. I was just suddenly at that door. And I put my hand on the doorknob, and I turned it. And as I pushed the door open, you feel like you're walking into your own home, okay? Now, I had this bratty little sister who I fought with all the time. I was your typical 17-year-old cussing, fight with my sister teenager, okay? Nothing special about me. I wasn't raised in the church. I don't know anything about Christianity or any of that stuff. So I go and I step in this door. Now, my sister had always set up traps, okay? So I'm looking down at the floor because I don't want to step on something or trip or cut my foot or whatever. She was a demon. So I step into this room, and I noticed, the first thing that I noticed, the floor is completely white, okay? Absolutely white. It wasn't marble. It was white like marble, but there weren't any veins in it, okay? And then I looked a little off to my right as I stepped in, and I noticed that there's no seam from the floor to the wall. Now, normally, there's an edge, right? There's a line, but there was no line. It wasn't rounded. It wasn't filled with caulk. There was no baseboard. It just wasn't there. I mean, it just purely was not there. And I thought that was just bizarre, right? I've never seen anything like that. So I'm looking at that, and I'm using my eyes to follow it to the corner, and there's no line at the corner where the walls are meeting the floor. There's no line, okay? It's just together perfectly. There's no seam, okay? And I'm thinking this is just bizarre. I've never seen anything like this. So I start to follow with my eyes up the wall because I'm trying to find a seam, right? I'm like, how is this together? It was just really strange. And as I'm looking up, I noticed that there's, I want to call it crown molding, but there's like a frame around at the top of the wall. And I'm looking up, and the ceiling is as big as the sky, okay? If you went to Montana and you're standing in the middle of some gigantic plain or pasture or whatever, and you looked straight up, is how big the sky was. Okay, so how big the ceiling of this room is massive. We don't have words for how big, enormous, ginormous. It was huge, okay? So I'm looking at the sky. I see a bird go by. There's clouds. It's a bright blue sky. And then when the bird went by, that drew my eye back to the framing that was around this gigantic sky. And I'm looking, and I start to, run my eye left on it. Got this gorgeous scrolling. It looked like a carousel pole. Okay, it had that kind of twist to it. And then I was looking to the left, and then I noticed a carousel pole that was going downward. So I went ahead and I followed my eyes down to that. And I'm still at the doorway, right? I haven't actually gone into the room. And I see this carousel pole, and I see this gigantic picture window, okay? Massive picture window. And again, as soon as I think of going to that window, I'm at that window, okay? I haven't taken a step. You're just immediately there. So I'm looking out this gigantic window, and there's a green pasture, okay? You know those trees that are skinny, that stand really tall? People use them for I don't know what they're called. But there were those. And then there's a couple of horses that were grazing. And then there was this hill, right? But the hill goes like straight up. And it's like a sheer rock face, goes straight up. And there was a waterfall, okay? And at the top, you could see there was grass. You could see it continued on. But from what I could see from this window, you had the straight up hill, and then you had the grass on the top, and then there was a waterfall, okay? Waterfall comes down, and at the bottom of the waterfall was this brook, okay? And it had the whitest water I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen water like this before or since. It wasn't blue. It wasn't dark. It was very, very clear, and it was white, okay? Not white like foamy or white like whitewater rapids. This was flowing through, and it was white. It was clear and white at the same time. And I'd never seen anything like this. So immediately, again, I think of going to see that water close up, and zoom, I'm right there at the edge of the water, right? And I'm looking in the water, and I'm looking for goldfish. Because I'm wondering, is there goldfish in here? Because, water fish, right? Because I'm a kid. And I don't see any goldfish at all. And I know every Christian out there is going, that's the living waters. And I'm like, yeah, the ones that flow from the throne of God. Yeah, I had no idea about this. I didn't even know what I was looking at. I didn't know where I was, okay? I just know that there's this stream of water, and I'm looking at the water, and I don't see any goldfish. I'm a little disappointed there's no goldfish. And the next thing I know, I'm right back into this room with this giant picture window again. As I'm looking out, I turn just a little bit to my right, and I see this guy, this man. He did not materialize. He was not made of vapor. He was just there. He wasn't scary. It did not scare me. It didn't startle me. You know how you suddenly see somebody and you jump? That did not happen. And I looked at him, and he's really good looking, okay? He kind of sort of looked like a boy that I had crush on in school, but it wasn't him. It was not like this guy's pretending to be him or anything like that. This guy's blonde, about 6'2". He had on a red flannel shirt. He had a little white t-shirt on underneath because I could see that poking through the collar. He had on blue jeans, which were Levi's 501 button-fly blue jeans. And he had black Converse high-top sneakers. And me being a 17-year-old girl, my first thought was, doesn't he know everybody wears white high tops now? Because, fashion crisis. So laugh about that. So as soon as I said that, he smirks. Okay, he kind of smiles, light smile. And I realized he heard what I said. And I'm like, kind of like, tee-hee, being an idiot. And everything that is said from this point forward is all telepathic, okay? There's no, mouth-moving conversation. Strictly telepathic. And he said to me, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And I instantaneously knew that I had all the time in the world that I wanted to answer that question. Time was of no problem. There was no rush. Absolutely no rush. And I thought the question was interesting because you can have it the same way, forward or backward. So I'm going, do you want to stay or go? Do you want to go or stay? And I'm kind of toying with the question. And then I get this fear, okay? Now, I had a very abusive mother. And if she didn't know where you were, you got in big trouble, okay? I mean, I got hit all the time, whatever her mood was. And my first thought was, what if, she gets mad? If I stay, she's going to get really angry. And I was worried. I was scared, She's going to do something really bad to me if I stay. And then this other person, this woman, answers my question. She goes, you don't have to worry about that. Your relationship to your mother is going to change later on. And I was like, oh, okay. And I mean, instantaneously, as soon as she said that, I didn't worry about it anymore. It was no longer a question. I could not care less what my mother thought. I couldn't care if she got mad. It was a non-issue. I didn't care. So then, it got weird. It's strange. When she said that you don't have to worry about that, your relationship to your mother, and I didn't worry about it anymore, this other sense, person, entity, I can only describe it as it was me, but it was the part of me that stays in heaven all the time. We are constantly connected to heaven, okay? And there's like half of you, it's like you're twins, okay? And one of you stays in heaven, and one of you's here on earth, all right? And I liken it to a control tower and a plane, all right? This person, who was me, knew everything that was going to go on in my life. Knew who I was going to marry, where I was going to go to school, where I was going to live, the whole thing, right? They have your full life flight plan, totally. And you're the plane. You're the one on the adventure. You're the one on Earth, okay? So she said, the one who's me, it's so bizarre. It's like there's two of you. She said, I still have to have my son. She's like doing an argument for why I should go back to Earth. And she said, I still have to have my son. And I'm 17 years old, okay? Kids aren't even a blip on my radar, okay? And she said, I still have to have my son. And as soon as she said that, I knew part of my life purpose was getting this kid to Earth. That I had to be his mother. Nobody else could be his mother, okay? That there were things about me that I was going to pass on to him. Attributes, knowledge, and intellect, all kinds of stuff. So it was important that I bring him to Earth, okay? And nothing about his father, nothing. I wasn't shown anything like what he would look like. It's just, I still have to have my son. And I'm like, okay, check that box, I'm like, what are you talking about, kids, And then, the woman who's in front of me, and I want you to visualize this, she's in a yellow dress. She has little blue flowers on it. It had a collar. She had pearls. And she had that hairdo, blonde. And she had a very grandmotherly feel to her, okay? I felt like I knew her for eons. Not just years, but eons, okay? Like, when the world was being formed, she and I were watching it together, okay? Beyond best friends. This is somebody who cared about me, loved me, had my absolute best interests at heart, okay? Like, better than a parent, right? And she said to me, your life's going to be a struggle. And I'm like, food, shelter, what are you talking about? And she said instantly no. It had nothing to do with food and shelter. And that's been true my whole life. I've never had to worry about food or shelter. But she said my life was going to be a struggle. I had no understanding what that meant. None. So at this point, she starts, there's like this, how do I explain this? It wasn't really a movie screen, but it was like watching a movie, okay? And she starts showing me war. Now, I don't talk a whole lot about this, okay? Because people don't like it. It upsets them. It took me years to start talking about my NDE, but I was shown a group of people. I'm one of them, and we are running for our lives, okay? And there's a whole group of us. And the things that I noticed was we're all older. I'm about 63 when we're in this group running. I'm 60 now. It was men and women. We're all over the age of 50. I didn't see any children in our group, okay? I didn't see any kids, teenagers, young adults. Nobody under the age of 50 was in this group. I did not see what we were running from, but I know they were shooting at us. This is active fire, okay? They were shooting at us. We were running as hard as we could, okay? I noticed that my hair had been colored recently, which I thought was weird because at the time that I had this vision or whatever during my NDE, I wasn't coloring my hair. And I thought that was weird. And we're running super hard. And then the vision went from a side view where I'm running with all these people and there's no little kids with us. Then it goes to a front view and I'm following this young soldier, okay? And he's in a khaki uniform. He has his rifle in his hands. He's got this square backpack on his back. It was a little bit longer than a box, okay? And I thought that was really strange because I've never seen anything like that on all the pictures of the soldiers that they showed us in school, okay? Because we would look at the uniforms of like World War I, World War II, Civil War. This looked nothing like that, okay? Our guys wore green fatigues when I had my NDE. I'd never seen a khaki uniform. I see them on TV all the time now. And he was in a khaki uniform. It was not camo khaki. It was straight plain khaki, okay? He's running. He's got a rifle in his hand. And he's booking it. He's leading us, okay? We're following him. And I'm tracking him mostly with that big box on his back, right? And he's running as hard as he can. I never saw his face because he never looked back at us to see if we were following him. And I just know I'm running as hard as I can, right? And at the same time, it's not hard to keep up with him. And, I'm an old woman. I don't run. But we're running very easily with him in this group. And we're all keeping up together. And the bullets are flying. And ahead of him, because we're right behind him when we're running, ahead of him is what looks like an adobe ruin that's being used as a command post, okay? So you can smell the gun smoke. You can hear the bullets whizzing by. There's an active shootout going on, right? We're running with him. They're shooting behind us. And there were others who were ahead of us, who were on his team, who were shooting at the bad guys behind us. I never turned around. I didn't see any bad guys. I only know that we were being shot at. I didn't see any thermonuclear war. I saw nothing on fire. We're in a desert area. I noticed that the bricks of the ruin were adobe brick. This was not cinder block. This was not modern, okay? This is adobe brick. And it was... I wasn't afraid. I wasn't scared at all. I'm watching this thing, and, he's running, and there were sandbags that were stacked up, and we were almost there. I mean, we were very close to arriving there. And then all of a sudden, it stops. She just stops. And I'm like, okay. All of a sudden, the movie just quits. And then the lady angel that I'd been talking to had her back to me, and she was talking to somebody I could not see or hear, okay? It had a male energy. I don't know if it was an archangel. I don't know who it was, okay? And I don't know anything. This is all very confusing for me because I'm like, okay, the movie stopped. I don't know what's going on. She's showing me war. I don't understand this. And I got the impression that if she showed me war, if she showed me more of this video, it would be worse. What she was going to show me was worse, and that it was also going to mess with my free will to choose to go back or not if she showed me more. So I wasn't going to be seeing any more of that. So then she turns to me and she full on impresses me that if I go back to Earth, that it's going to be like being on the front lines of World War II. Particularly the Battle of Foy in France, which I had to look up when I woke up. That was like a grenade kind of fight. And, you were going through the forest towards your enemy, and the people next to you were being evaporated. I mean, that's how bad it was. And she impressed upon me greatly that this was going to be hand-to-hand combat, that this was an enemy you couldn't see, that this was bad, really bad. She did not want me going back to Earth, okay? And she said to me, you have a lot of work to do. And again, I'm like, digging ditches? I had no idea what she was talking about. I have a lot of work to do. And again, she said, no, like that has nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with digging ditches. And I was relieved. Like, yay, no digging ditches. So she said, you have a lot of work to do. And then the next thing I see is that she's standing in front of me. She's about 5 feet away. She's got a clothesline, okay? There's a white farmhouse behind her, a big one, right? Like 2-story. And it has the slat wood on the side, and the bushes, and it's a really nice place. She's on this long clothesline. And on the clothesline is a sheet, right? She's still in her yellow dress and her pearls and everything. And there's this sheet that's on the clothesline, and it stretches off into infinity. And I found out later, this is called the boundary, okay? And I understood, looking at this sheet, that if I went over it, or if I went under it, or if I tried to pass where she was, because there was a gap, if I tried to scoot past, where she was, that I was staying in I want to call it heaven, but at the time I didn't know it was heaven. I didn't know where I'd be staying, but she just stood there, and there were people slightly off to the right of her. There was like 30 of them. I couldn't see them, okay? I couldn't make out faces. I didn't know their names. But boy, they were going to be really happy to see me, and they were all excited, and they were going to have this big party, okay? If I decided to go past that sheet, it was going to be like the most amazing, astounding, wonderful thing ever, right? And I had that thought that I still had to have my son, that I had a duty here on Earth, that I had a job to do. And I knew that things were going to get bad, but I also understood that, I had a job to do. And I made my decision to stay, which was not like an outright decision to go back to Earth, but just kind of the choice was made. I wasn't going past the sheet. Dude, I get slammed. I mean, just whomped back into my body, like instantaneously, okay? It was such a hard entry, and I remember passing through that warm wall of Jell-O again, and I get slammed back in my body. I thought I broke my back. I thought my spine wouldn't work, is how hard I got thrown back in my body. So I'm laying there, and my eyes are shut, and I'm terrified to open my eyes, because if I open my eyes and I'm looking through my eyelids again, I'm going to be upset, because I really, really, really wanted to be back in my body, okay? I did not want to come out of my body again. So I'm laying there, and I can't feel my feet, I can't feel my legs, and I'm like, am I going to be able to walk? Because I got slammed back in my body really hard. And then, so I start kind of, shifting my hips, see if my spine still worked, and that happened. And I moved my fingers a little bit, and that happened. I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to be able to, okay. And then I opened my eyes, and oh my gosh, my eyelids worked. I was so happy. I remember being so relieved. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to come out of my body again. Thank God. Really relieved I'm in my body. And then I look at the foot of my bed, and my dad has hold of my foot. Now, I couldn't feel my foot. I couldn't feel his hand holding my foot, okay? And he's looking at me in a really weird way. Now, my dad was a Pearl Harbor survivor. He was there when it was attacked, when Pearl Harbor was attacked. He's talked to me a little bit about the war. And And he's seen death. I mean, he was part of the body cleanup the day after, okay? This man knows what death looks like, and he knew I had been dead. And I came from such an atheistic household. We never, ever talked about life after death, what happens after you die. We didn't pray before meals. We didn't go to church. We never talked about God, heaven, nothing, okay? I couldn't tell you what an angel looked like. And I don't know what to say to him. I literally just came from this place and was talking to these people, and now I'm in my hospital bed and I'm looking at my dad. And I'm like, okay. And I'm telling you, I did not talk about this for years. And I mean for years. And for other people who've had an NDE, we don't talk about this stuff. And I'm 60 now. My kids are in their 20s, so they can't be taken away. But there's a reason why I didn't talk about this, because of the other stuff that happens after your NDE, okay? And I'll put that in another video, because this one's getting a little long. But it's something that stayed with me my whole life. I remember all of it. I remember every second of it, from the moment I died to the moment I came back. And here's how I found out it was heaven. So I'm looking at all the religions, right? I'm checking out Buddhism. I'm checking out, all the occult, all kinds of stuff. Because I'm trying to figure out, what the flip did I see and where was I? Because I went somewhere. And I was at Eagle's Nest with my friend Mary. I remember her last name. I'm not going to put it out there. And they were going through Revelation 4:1. And in that, I read that that he went up and he saw a door. And I had seen that door. Now, the door that he saw was flung wide open. The door that I saw was barely open, okay? And I think it was barely open because that's how much I knew about God. I had a minuscule understanding of that. And here's how I knew. I had a babysitter named Frances. And she used to drag us out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning to be at church at 8 o'clock on a Sunday. And we hated her for it, okay? My mother had to get us coloring books so that we weren't climbing all over the pews and raising Cain at the church. And we were so bad, there were Sundays she left us home, okay? But that was my only exposure to church of any kind. And something must have stuck, because I don't know why I wound up there. I was your typical loudmouth, cussing, fight with my sister, hated her guts. I mean, the whole bit. I mean, you want to talk about a sinner. And then I go there, but I think I went there because I had zero understanding. Zero, okay? I knew nothing. I couldn't have told you anything. And over the years since this event, it's become clearer and clearer that I was in heaven. The people that I was talking to were angels. They did not have wings or flowing robes or flaming swords, because that would have terrified me. The part in Revelation about seeing the door, because everybody always talks about a tunnel or a light, and I didn't see any of that. I saw a door, slightly ajar, just slightly ajar. And then, that room and the whole thing. And the male angel, I have no idea who that was. I call him Gary, but I don't know who that was. We never exchanged names. But they knew me. And I'm best friends with this woman who's talking, who feels like an aunt, grandmother kind of thing. And absolutely your best interest at heart. And so I'm a Christian today. And I'll tell you outright, I'm a Christian today. And I know that heaven's real. I know for 100% it's real. I know that our whole lives are planned out. And when she said that my life was a struggle, that has to do with the murder of my fiance, and that's been a struggle. A lot of work you have to do is trying to get people to understand that heaven is real, God is real, Jesus Christ is real, and yeah, you have a choice between good and evil, and you're going to pick a team, kids, and that's it, So I've decided to release my NDE and start telling people about it and sharing my experience. And then for parents who've lost children, and you're like, well, my kid was a sinner and this and that, or they weren't baptized. I was not baptized when I died either. So I don't think original sin is a real thing. But yeah, the whole bit. Just nuts. So I will be doing more videos expounding on all those things, but that's the whole thing in a nutshell. And I will end this for now. And peace and grace be with you.